My name is Beverly Nann. I was born in Vancouver. My parents' names are Lynn Lee and Harry Chin. I have 3 brothers, and I'm number 2 in the family. I was born and brought up in Vancouver's Chinatown, and went to Strathcona School, and Britannia High School, and then to UBC to do my social work degree. And I guess I'm interested in people and all kinds of things that people do, and travel as well. I guess my life has been very interesting in that I've been into so many things, but mainly I'm interested in people and where people take me. And I also have a strong background in sports and music, so musical events, cultural events, community events, and actually meeting a lot of people from diverse cultures too as well. And of course there's a tremendous opportunity to do all of that in Canada and in Vancouver. As I was growing up, I was very involved in the community, in my church community, in the Chinese community, and did a lot of volunteer work at that time and very much enjoyed it. And so when I went to university, I actually went into social work because that really made the most sense for me in terms of who I was. And when I left the School of Social Work, I was into community development, and it was really there were immigrant families that were coming into the city, and I had an opportunity to work with them. So I developed a strong interest in working with immigrants, and my mother as well was very involved in helping to settle immigrants that were coming from China after the war. So I was introduced to that kind of volunteer work at home. So after I graduated from university, I ended up marrying and another social worker. And as it turned out, he was pursuing higher studies, so we moved to New York, where he got his master's degree in social work, and I worked in New York as a social worker with Black families, and that was a whole new, wonderful experience for me to be working with diverse cultures. And then we returned to Vancouver. Had 2 children, and he decided to go back to school again, this time going to California, University of California, to do his PhD studies. And so we were there for a couple of years with the children, and returned to Vancouver, where he took a job at the University of BC in the School of Social Work. Well, as I was working in this field of social work, a field officer from the Secretary of State approached me to establish an outreach program for immigrant mothers and preschoolers in the Chinatown community who were very isolated. And at the same time, I was very aware that the schools were concerned about the immigrant children coming to school. And so I got a grant from Secretary of State and initiated this program called, which is now known as the Pacific Immigrant Resources Society, and it was an outreach program to teach immigrant Chinese women survival English, and also to prepare their young preschoolers for school. And that was, worked very well that first year. And so the second year, we outreached to some other ethnic communities, the Italians, the Greek, and the South Asians, and had another Chinese group. And as a result of being able to work with those diverse communities, we were able to really introduce cultural diversity into the program, and had the immigrant families from those diverse cultures being introduced and programming together. So that sort of got me started in the field of working in the field of immigrant services. And so I had quite a long career, initiating programs and services to assist with promoting Canada's multicultural policy and immigrant settlement. Now, I'm involved in an organization called Vancouver Asian Heritage Month Society. And I was introduced to that society 20 years ago. This was around the time when my daughter, who's a dancer, was involved with 3 other Asian dancers. And they were constantly being confused for one another. And so they decided to organize a company called CHA, which is tea, and to show that they were from 4 distinct Asian cultures: Korean, Singaporean, Chinese, and Japanese. And so I was introduced to Jim Wong Chu, who was one of the founders of Vancouver Asian Heritage Month Society. And they had initiated a celebration of Asian Heritage Month and created a platform for the showcasing of the arts and culture that was emerging from the Pan-Asian community. At that time, it was, they were really kind of floundering, and Jim Wong Chu, who was the last one of the 5 founders, decided he wasn't going to carry on anymore. But I said to him, that's too good an idea to let die. So let me see what I can do to help you to build the infrastructure for this organization. So he helped with this production, this dance production of Cha, and I helped him with the building of Vancouver Asian Heritage Month Society and the Exploration Festival, and ended up as being the first president of the society that they had established. I was away from Vancouver Asian Heritage Month Society for a number of years, and just last few years stepped back in to give them a hand with the transition, because I feel it still has a very important role to play in Canadian society at this point, as a cultural integration platform. Early on, the society really helped the Pan-Asian artists produce, because that was the help they needed. So we had quite a few curators at that time. But at this time, really, there are many companies and groups that have emerged out of the Pan-Asian communities that are doing excellent productions on their own. They don't need the help for that. But what they do need help is to really work across the Pan-Asian spectrum outside of their own ethnic communities, to be introduced to other artists and to collaborate with them. And also, with the large increasing immigrant populations in Vancouver particularly, there's a real concern on the part of policymakers and leaders that these ethnic communities are becoming so institutionally complete that they don't have to go outside of their community for anything. They've got their own doctors, lawyers, and accountants, their own markets, and so that really discourages integration into the wider society, and it really kind of defeats the purpose of multiculturalism and having all the diverse cultures in Canada participating in the wider society. So we feel that exploration now really needs to also be that cultural integration platform, a place where newcomers to Canada can really look into the festival and get a sense of what Multicultural Canada is all about, because our artists pour themselves out in their art form. They say it as it is, and if you really want to know what's going on in Canadian society, in the Pan-Asian community, go and hear what they have to say and watch their performances. So that's where you'll find out what's really going on in their communities. So also for the general public, it's an opportunity for them to be educated and develop an appreciation for the arts and culture that's emerging out of our Pan-Asian communities. And for those reasons, I guess I've become re-involved in the society to help move it into this new direction, because I feel it has a real role to play in promoting a healthy multicultural society. For those of you who are newcomers to society, I encourage you to get out and volunteer. I mean, that's the best way to get to know Canada. The volunteer opportunities are, I think it's probably one of the largest percentage of population being volunteers in the world is in Canada. There's so many opportunities, and that's where there's a potential also for jobs with friends that you'll make through your volunteer work, and you'll get the Canadian experience that the employers are looking for, and you'll be introduced to the wonderful diversity of Canada. And it's very important that you become a part of this larger society, and the best way to do it is through doing some volunteer work, and that way you'll be able to benefit from what Canada has to offer you with its tremendous cultural diversity. And that's one of the, I feel that for Canada, the major contribution is making to the world is to show the world how a culturally diverse country like Canada can be a place that enriches everyone. I think that's our major contribution to the world, to show how it can work. But we all have to participate in this to make it work. I grew up in a society that discriminated against me. And that's why I committed myself to working in the field of immigrant and multiculturalism, because I didn't want the kind of world that I was introduced to for my children, for other children, like my children as well. My mother was born here. She lost her, well, she didn't really have citizenship because she was registered under as a non-citizen. She lost whatever status she had in Canadian society when she married my father, who came here as a young teenager. My uncle wanted to sign up to serve in the Second World War, to show that he was committed to Canada as he was born here, but was rejected. It was the British government that recognized the value of people like my uncle, who could be dropped behind enemy lines and mix in with the rest of the population, and also, of course, was Chinese speaking as well. So that was another advantage. People like my uncle fought for citizenship rights when he came back. And so finally my mother was able to become a naturalized Canadian citizen. So, that sort of thing shouldn't happen. But you must be vigilant. These kinds of responsibilities and rights that we have now shouldn't be taken for granted, because they can disappear just as easily as they have been. Well, it wasn't easy, but the rights have been established. So I urge you to become involved in the community, make sure that everybody's rights are being respected, and I guess really make your contribution as a citizen, because there's a lot at stake, and we certainly don't want to go the direction of other countries where these kinds of rights and responsibilities are not guaranteed and are not there.